So I just find it interesting that of all the things that like people keep on jumping on and liking, it's I think kind of boring photo that I didn't even want to post anyway, but I thought it added to the vibe of the Horological Society post I made.
Okay.
And people keep on jumping on it, and then this guy Dexter that I know from Portland, Oregon, actually. I can't remember. I think I know him through like one of the online car groups. I think it was Gearhead Boners.
Yeah.
I think
it's that one, the Esprit photo. You right?
So let me get there, Justin. I'm getting to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a cool yellow Esprit. It's a twin turbo V8. But people keep on like jumping on it. It's like I don't know. Even like our posts that's like promoting our brand and our merch and stuff isn't getting this kind of attention. It's probably the algorithm, the almighty algorithm. As I hold our plunger,
as you plunge the table.
Suck.
I think I did. I think I got that.
I look forward to hearing that later. But yeah, this guy Per, who is he has some cars like 720S and like DB11 and like
just
really
pocket change.
Yeah, he has some cool shit and like goes out with the I think he was at the Valkyrie launch, I think, as well. And like his wife is like super like well known and connected politically and like all sorts of like crazy shit.
Damn.
And so he commented Dexter commented, "Is that a fucking Celine S7 next to it?" And I said twin turbo one at that. And then Per chimed in and said, twin turbo V8 Lotus Esprit, yes, but not a Celine S7. Still a super cool and cheap car. And then Dexter said, the car next to it, though. He's like, oh, wait, I see the Celine now. Is that a turbo or the original NA? And I just commented, I was told the S7 was a TT car owned by our favorite actor, Bongwater.
Mm-hmm.
But I might be getting it twisted. So we'll see what he has to say. Oh, he said that's legit. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Anyways, what the fuck is up, dude? We are recording not on a Sunday morning, but on a Wednesday afternoon because I'm going to be busy on Sunday, and so I want to keep us consistent. So,
agreed.
Welcome to the chat, dog.
Yeah. I did see a funny thing on the way home to here. I saw my first Ford Lightning.
Oh, really?
On the road, yeah.
Yeah.
And it had plates from the Ford dealer just down the road, so it's probably one of the first-ish ones to arrive at the
I've
Layton
seen
dealer.
like 3 of them.
Yeah.
3 or 4 of them. My first one was like around 9th and 9th area. I've seen them like on the highway before.
Mm-hmm.
They can be pretty under the radar if you're not like very well versed. Like it looks, for all intents and purposes, identical to an F-150 except for headlight change, I think taillight change, and a badge on the side where F-150 would go.
And the big grill. The grill's all filled in compared to...
Yeah, but like if you see it driving by, like at a quick glance, like most people, like that's why I say if you're well versed and if you know what the car, what the truck is, then sure. It's not a car or it's not a truck that screams like, "Hey, everyone, look at me! I'm a new EV truck," unlike the Rivian.
Which, I mean, I think the Rivian's one of the ones that's done that best because quite often...
I think it's done it great.
Because quite often they've done that...
I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way.
Agreed. Yeah. No, in this case, I agree. Like, I think Rivian is an example of someone who's done it well.
Oh,
where it looks different, but in a good way. But then you go look at some other examples. You can find, like, the BMW i3 is an example. It's like, it looks different, but, like, to most people,
Are you talking about EVs in general?
EVs in general,
yeah.
Where it's like, it looks a little too different to be comfortable.
I think the i3 is cute still.
Yeah.
I still classify that as cute. But the new iXs, like... That's the new BMW EV vehicle.
I need to verse myself real quick.
Yeah, I think it's the iX. Just Google BMW iX. There'll be other or post fixes later. Yeah, those are also here. Those also exist, and that is not done well. Like, so remember what we were just talking about? With BMWs disappointing us, which is not really news. What is news, kind of, as we're recording this, is the new M2 officially dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Still ugly, like the M4 and M3 and the 2 series that it's based on. It's not as hideous as like M3, M4 because I don't think anything can really touch that.
Hopefully.
I mean, hopefully there isn't a BMW moment where they go hold my beer, but
they're gonna rehire Bangle.
Honestly, Bangle did a much better job than whoever the fuck is heading this now. They could really use Chris Bangle.
I know. But the Bangle series were at least like, although they weren't attractive and very like dated and timestamped themselves in the mid 2000s.
I mean, they're base as fuck though.
Exactly. At the same time, they weren't that offensive.
Yeah.
You know, these things are so far the opposite direction that they're just brash in a extraordinarily
It's almost
gaudy way.
art though. It's almost art.
Almost. Keep going.
I mean, art is subjective and you know, you could start to look into it deeper, but I'm not going to do that.
Some people like an overbite. I mean,
some people like overbites. Some people, I mean, you should see the things that people do with tattoos on piercings on their face.
Yep.
So, you know, God bless. I was going somewhere with this. I guess, yeah, the new M2 dropped. It's, you know, going to be another, probably what, B58 derived. I know it has a manual.
Yep.
Here, maybe.
Yep.
Hey, Jamie, can you Google that?
Okay.
Hey, Jamie, look that up.
BMW M2. Okay, I'll bring this up. If I can find my cursor. There it is.
Also, while you were doing that, got distracted, and 2023 Porsche Cayman GT4 RS in paint to sample Ruby Star with indigo blue wheels. Second PTS GT4 RS in the States.
Damn.
Interesting. They're coming.
Okay, so I have this. It doesn't actually say what engine it is, but 453 horsepower. So, I mean,
yeah.
On and up.
Everything's fast.
Yeah.
So that's the same car that you were showing me before, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to confirm because when I saw those photos, I assumed it was the same thing. I didn't actually confirm.
Yeah.
But Dynan made a post about. I guess they just made a post about the new M2.
Yeah, it sounds like in the post they said allegedly, you know, they're going to be making all their normal tuning shit to it. And potentially looking at a new front bumper, but like, I mean,
well, and Vorsteiner tried doing that with body kits or like front ends for the M3s.
Yeah, looking at this, or
M4s.
What bugs me so much about this is it doesn't really have the beaver teeth, but it has dimples.
you know, well, okay, I'm not that mad about dimples or about like the bulging like front quarter like extractors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the headlight design and the. Can you pull up a new tab with just the M240 because I think it really shines best here. It's just the fucking proportions about how crazy long that front end is with the tiny headlights, a super fucking short greenhouse.
Yeah.
And then a stubby ass with tiny taillights.
Yeah, and I've noticed the tiny ass with the tiny taillights before with just the regular, like, 2 Series like this M240 that I've seen around.
Yeah,
so
that's not good.
No.
That's really not good.
No.
I just don't understand who let that pass. I like the purple, though. I fuck with the purple.
Good color.
Yeah.
No, looking at a little closer now.
Actually, can you look at the front of the 240 just so we can go back and forth?
Let's just...
Yeah, that roller.
Yep, right there. Okay. So, that versus that. If I had to choose between the lesser of two evils, I kind of prefer this over the big square.
Yeah, for listeners, the 240. There's more of an elegance to it, and I think the M department might have just got handed a bad hand, and we're told to make the M240 more aggressive and more aggro, and they definitely did. I don't agree with their direction.
See, it basically looks like what they did here is be like, okay, there's too much nothing going on here, because if you look at the M240, it's a lot of blank space doing nothing.
There's some dead space, but then you have like these triangles that are coming up.
Yeah.
At like a weird...
And they have a weird point, too, that almost seems to go up into the, like, center, towards the center.
Well, yeah, it crosses that crease of that part of the bumper, which is also strange. You would think that they might want to line that up, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. Definitely a lesser of two evils. Definitely the 240i over the new M2.
And this grille looks positively normal compared to most of the other ones.
It's all relative,
Yeah,
right?
so this is very relative compared to the most of the rest of the BMW lineup. That grill looks average.
Yeah, it looks fine.
This one, I actually was just thinking, this one reminds me of the grill on like, I'll try to find a photo reference on my phone real quick instead of trying to dig through on here, but it looks like an old semi-truck grill, and I'm going to find the reference.
I don't know if anyone has said this yet. I haven't heard any other podcasts or car reviews.
Mm-hmm.
There was once a very famous German leader that shared a similar front end with this BMW M2.
A similar split front end. Yeah. Quite the inspiration. That would be ironic.
I mean, you see it.
I do. Oh, yeah. No, that looks just as
I don't think you can unsee it now.
No, that looks just as squared off, too.
Pretty much. There's like a little bit of a rounded edge on like the bottom outside, like, on the left, the bottom left, and on the right, the bottom right.
Wow.
But yeah, that's not gone terribly well. I mean, I will commend them on their box flares for the fenders, like for the haunches.
Yeah, I love that.
I like that
awesome.
stance. Can you scroll down maybe and find like a rear shot? Yeah. Oh, that's an action-y shot.
And there we
Wonder
go.
who did the photography here.
Let's see. It might show on this page.
If you scroll down,
Brian.
that's the writer.
Okay.
Anyways,
yeah, no clue. I mean,
quad pipes. I mean, okay.
I like the placement of the quad pipes. I like this lower than all of this going on up here. I like this.
I don't hate the rear end as much as I hate the front end, which is how I still feel kind of about the 240.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the pipes. I don't mind the diffuser, and I don't mind. Are those actually vents, or are those black plastic underneath the taillights on the edge?
I'm gonna guess they're black plastic.
Probably.
In fact, I'm gonna guess they're black plastic housing a reflector because you have to have a reflector in that area.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Either that, or because that's why a lot of
I could see like a honeycomb plastic insert, like a la. Oh, who else has done that? Has Mustang done that?
think so, yeah.
Something like that. It's like a flat piece of plastic with an added like layer of honeycomb, hex.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, what's funny is you can see those box flares. We just switched to another picture. It's a rear 3/4, and you can definitely see the box
them on the front, actually. Yeah, I can see it on that photo. I can see on the front way better than the rear. The rear kind of disappears, but keep going.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, that's not a bad shot. I like it. Yeah, from like a full-on 90, it's not terrible.
Yeah, if you just eliminate the front and rear end.
It's actually like they went into Photoshop and they took a new, like the old M2 and a new design, and they layered them. Like, the M2, the old car being on the bottom layer and the new car being on the top layer. And all they did, they had a whole new car, whole new design, looks everything, 100% of it is completely different.
Yep.
And they took a history remove brush and just did a whole thing on the top, like third.
Yep.
Because that roof line, I mean, the top of it is a little more flat, like on the actual roof.
Yeah.
But everything else is pretty fucking close to the old car. Like the way how the A-pillar in the windshield comes up and then it, becomes horizontal, and the way it slopes down in the back is very similar to the previous 2 Series.
Yeah.
Just everything below that belt line is completely different. And it looks like just a hodgepodge, really. To me, at least.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit very well. Actually, come to think.
And I've heard things about the new cockpit. They definitely have a new interior design language that's going on with a huge fucking screen.
Like everybody.
Well, you know what this also reminds me of? Actually, does this remind you of anything?
It looks Mercedes. Because it's both screens all on one big
That looks
plane.
a little too tall to be Mercedes. You know what that reminds me of?
What's that?
The new S650 Mustang.
Oh, yeah.
That looks straight up, like almost ripped out.
Interesting.
Oh, and they have the fucking M4 comp seats. They have the ball and the cock and ball torture holder.
Yes, right in the
seats.
center.
Yeah, that I haven't sat in them. I've heard people say they're fucking stupid. I would be inclined to agree. That doesn't look like that would be a comfortable thing.
Yeah,
especially for like long distance trips and stuff. Like imagine driving that, across country.
And on top of that, it's not adjustable. So, like, let's say you're somebody with some rather thick thighs. That's going to be digging into the inside of your thigh.
Right, yeah.
That just doesn't work.
I guess all the Germans are just, like, really tall, lanky sticks.
Apparently.
Like Andy Preuninger at Porsche is, like, a very tall, blonde-haired German that is a stick.
Yeah. And looking at this, like, I just don't see the point for that. Yeah, this car is going to be a fun Kenny driver. Yeah, like maybe occasionally someone will take it out for a track day, but like that's just so unnecessary to keep like your legs in check.
Well, yeah, so the previous M2 and how I presume the next M2 is also supposed to be is a daily driver first. Something that you do drive to the office.
Yeah.
That you can take up a canyon. You can easily take to the track.
Yeah.
With very minimal adjustments, like down your tire pressures, flush out your brake fluid, and maybe put some new pads in, and then you're like great for like all day at the track. I don't think that has changed at all, but these seats basically eliminate any kind of positive, I don't know, attribute to what would make it a great daily driver. It's like they're trying to distract you with the big screen and the complicated knobs and buttons on the wheel and stuff, and also in addition to that added these race buckets to say, oh yes, and you can also go to the track. But it's like, this is still the same car. Like it's just trying to be a jack of all trades and master of none, because I'm sure that also rides incredibly stiff. I'm sure of it.
Oh yeah, especially being a lighter weight modern BMW. Like,
sure.
Lighter weight in quotes.
Right.
But,
I mean, yeah, the heavier stuff that they try to overspring to, keep up the, stay competitive with lap times while also maintaining a 4,000-pound curb weight. Because, like, cars are just getting bigger, and they're getting faster, and they're getting heavier. Like, bigger footprint, more power.
Yep.
And also, higher curb weight. So, like, I think the new M3 is over 4K, and I think the M4 is, like, around 4K.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if the M5 is touching, like, 4,200.
Oh, the M5 was like a 45, probably 100-pound car. I mean, yeah, the M5 is a big old, bruiser sedan. I'm talking about like smaller, smaller. I'm just talking about the actual sports cars.
43, 45 for the M5.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So, like, kind of split the difference between me and you. We're both not that far off.
Yeah.
But either way, a big car. Like, you think of... There's two reasons that cars have primarily gotten heavier. They have gotten dimensionally somewhat bigger, but also
they have.
It's mainly all the added technology, like electronics technology, safety, design, all the above. And
well, it's interesting because their footprint is getting bigger, but the interior space is actually not really growing that much.
It's actually shrinking in some cases.
Yeah.
Because like the biggest car volume-wise that was a standard midsize car I ever owned was my Audi 200. It was fucking cavernous inside.
Well, it was also a car that came out in the 90s but designed in the 80s. So
yeah, that
was the thing. Like tiny A-pillars, great greenhouse, just letting a bunch of light in. Yeah.
Versus now, like even my 2003 S6 of which was its kind of successor later on in life, it was still okay. Fair, but not quite as much greenhouse. And then we get even to now to like...
Well, that's an 18-year-old car now.
I know.
Which is also weird.
And then now we get to like the modern C8, just cars in general. Like C8 All-Road or the C8 RS6, either one.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy shit, I feel like I'm in Tron.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I quite like the RS6, though.
I do, too.
It is still very good.
But yeah, it's just...
That is one of the few cars that I think actually lives up to the hype.
I think it did, because it took everything that we didn't get that was good about the C7 and C7.5 and then just improved it.
Well, yeah, like the interior is like actually not bespoke to that even that chassis. Like the same interior and shrunken down to a smaller size is available in the S3. And available in everything from the S3 normal like midsize sedan stuff, available in the SQ8, RSQ8, like their SUVs and shit. It's not that that's special, but it really was a fantastic combination of a great place to be. That's probably the best ride, like suspension, like the best ride I have. There was a moment where on the highway, driving up to pick up fucking Derek after, because he hit a fucking deer in his Lexus at 100 miles an hour. Yes, Derek, I'm dragging you for this. You played stupid games. You're going to win stupid fucking prizes.
Yep.
So went up to go save my buddy Derek because he was on the side of the road. Well, when I picked him up, he was at a gas station because he got a lift from a tow truck. But still, but there was a moment where I was just like cruising at like 80 on the highway. Radar cruise was on. It's like comfort mode, just chill out mode.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like taking like an edible or something. It was just like super serene, almost borderline out of body experience. It didn't even feel like driving. It felt maybe like closer to, I don't know, like gliding, like actually like a gliding through the sky kind of thing.
And I actually vividly remember back in 2013-ish, I believe, when Chris Harris pitted the C7 RS6 Avant with the GTR, the Nissan GTR. And that YouTube video where he's like, this is so bizarre. Because, like, okay, yeah, the GTR launched a little harder. Of course, it weighs like several hundred pounds less and several other things. But the Audi outbraked the GTR. And then, of course, is stupidly comfortable because his also had the same, just a previous version of the air.
They do different things, though.
They do. But his also had a previous version of the air suspension, like what Nate's had, where it's just can do almost anything.
Oh, my God.
Because it's like, you can just sit here and ride on a cloud. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you push a button and it lowers 2 inches and you're just sitting there ready to pounce.
Oh, well, the cool thing about Nate's car, too, you know, you download an app and you can drop it like it's a show car, just
to the ground.
Yes.
Which is pretty sweet, considering
it's really fucking cool.
It's stock.
Yeah, all the hardware. Like, you don't change any hardware. You just download an app on your phone and you just drop it like it's hot. Because it is hot.
Yeah.
Anyways, we like to talk about Audis. Let's maybe go away from that a little bit, diversify. I did see back in the article that it's a variation on the S58 engine.
Let's see.
Scroll up. Yeah. 453 horsepower variant of the M's twin-turbo S58 inline 6.
Yep.
6-speed manual standard. I don't know if they're going to offer an auto. 8-speed auto, yeah.
Yep.
Which is the ZF. We know it's a tried and true.
I find it funny that a lot of other manufacturers besides the Volkswagen Audi group have gone on this arc of like single clutch, dual clutch, and now a lot of them are back to just those ZF 8-speed autos because they're so good.
They are good. It's not quite a ZF 8-speed auto, but I was actually I drove a Stinger yesterday.
Oh, really?
I did.
That's funny.
Yeah, a red Stinger, actually.
Okay.
Funny enough. I was helping our buddy Andrew Casey. Shout out Andrew Casey. OG fans of the podcast 1.0 will remember him. Yeah, he hit me up and he was like, hey, can you help me come do my brakes on the GTI? I'm like, okay.
Nice.
I get there. He and his girlfriend had already done the front half, and I was supposed to help with the back half. Holy shit, dude. One of this carrier pin would not fucking move. Did he talk to you? Has he hit you up? We broke 3 wrenches.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you have any tips of how to get a rear, carrier pin out. But what I was getting at was we did a bunch of runs to local car part shops.
Yeah.
We went to an AutoZone 3 times. We went to an O'Reilly's once. And we went to an Ace Hardware once. Like, just trying to find like the specific triple square for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, but I did drive his Stinger, and it gave me the fizz that I haven't had in many other much more exciting cars, which is interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah,
that's surprising to hear you say that still gave you the fizz.
The way that it just delivered power, just like even like punching it out of corners, like it gave me a fizz in a way that, like, say the C8 Corvette did not give me a fizz. It was interesting.
Yet again, I come back to that engine put in something else would be amazing.
That's what I'm saying. Cut 1,000 pounds out of it in a mid-engine sports car.
Like,
ta-da.
You're done.
Yes.
Because
like maybe have a sportier, more of like a sports coupe-like interior, but move the cockpit forward, put the engine behind you. Maybe have some transaxle variant, to make it a rear-wheel drive car.
Well, and actually, that's kind of already been done. So you remember that DeLorean?
Which DeLorean?
So there was a custom-made DeLorean.
Oh, the Stinger GT one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They used a 996 gearbox, and according to that article, it was not difficult to mount up.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
yeah.
There you go.
That's owned by a guy on Instagram called Lamborghini.
Yeah.
I don't know if he still has it, but shout out to that dude.
Yeah.
I mean that car seemed like a riot, like in a way that old cars are fun. Like not the same. You know? I mean, like what I'm trying to promote is like an 8-speed auto flappy paddle gearbox mounted on the rear, or in between the engine and the rear.
Yeah.
And have like a 3,200 pound sports car. I don't know.
No, I think that'd be great. And I agree with you. My main point was that, like, I was really excited to see that engine in something else. Like, somebody actually take that engine and use it for a project.
Oh,
you know? And I would like Kia internally to do something like that. It would just be so cool. Even if it wasn't mid-engine. Even if it was a, like, front engine but rear-wheel drive, longitudinal 2-door platform.
Maybe, yeah.
I could see that as, I mean, that would be easier for them. I could see them closer to doing that.
I mean, at that point, they'd be just chopping off inches in between, like within the wheelbase.
Yeah, and I don't know. I was kind of disappointed that they've done a bunch with that engine. It's in the G70, the G80, the G90, etc. Like, it's in other things, but nothing else quite as exciting as the Stinger or the G70.
Right.
Those are the two most exciting.
Well,
things
maybe we need to have a project car for our channel.
I know,
and we'll just buy a Stinger GT engine and gearbox. And we'll hire Wes Kagan, and we'll just like figure it out with like a 2-frame chassis and like design some bodywork to go around it. What could possibly go wrong, Justin?
Quite a few things.
What could possibly? Oh, okay.
Money's one.
What's that?
But
I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. Actually, here you go. Here's an idea for a conglomeration.
Uh-oh.
No, this isn't a bad one. Literally take a Miata.
Yeah. I don't want to do like a Miata swap thing, though.
Okay.
I mean, I like Miatas. Also, like, you're talking about expensive. Like, Miatas are expensive now.
True.
No, I'd rather take, like, honestly, find a salvage title first-gen Cayman. Do that. I mean, people have done... There's a dude who did a Coyote 5.0 swap in one of those.
Oh, boy. That's not only going to be tight, but that's a lot of like
a car that
power.
fucks.
Yeah,
a car that fucks. Farrah did a one take of that like in 2017. I want to say.
Yeah,
he drove that. I think in was it Angeles Crest? I think he drove an Angeles Crest. Yeah. I mean, he said very good things about it. He quite enjoyed it.
Hey,
as someone who also loves Porsches, but also likes Ford products. Like he had great things to say about it.
There's a marriage that shouldn't have been.
Well, yeah, and that was part of the thesis, but the way like that specific car was like screwed together, like it was put together like really well. It wasn't it ended up going to SEMA, but isn't like a typical SEMA car, you know?
It's an actually functional one.
Yeah.
No, and there's so many different worlds that I wish existed. Another one that I keep seeing things because I'm in all the Volkswagen Audi groups. I keep seeing this the all-track that's been RS3 swapped, 5-cylinder and all drivetrain. And I'm like, that's something that I wish actually existed from the manufacturer.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Mighty Car Mods has been doing a thing, not with Audis, but they took a Subaru Levorg because they actually get the Levorg there, but they actually made their own STI.
Nice.
So dropped engine and trans. They pulled interior, they took off the front end, and did a full OEM swap. It was STI exhaust all the way to the tips, and they have just like Levorg tips because it looks like clean a factory.
Yeah.
They took an STI that had been previously wrapped around a fucking tree. Like, the entire driver's side of that was completely dicked. It was done. So, they pulled the engine, like they did a service on it, threw it in there with the gearbox.
Yeah.
They pulled the interior stuff, so like the STI seats and like gauge cluster and like all that stuff, threw that in the Levorg. They took just the STI like front end, like the front clip, and like they painted it black like the Lavorg and threw it on there, and it looks so fucking good.
I approve.
Yeah.
Granted, I haven't followed them in many years. However,
they've been putting out a lot of good stuff recently.
Yeah, and I followed them way back in the early days, like 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
when they were doing a lot of their early stuff.
Yeah.
And there wasn't necessarily a reason I dropped off, but like anytime I've come back to them and just randomly watched a couple videos, Marty and Moog have always been great.
I didn't really care that much about what they were doing until, like, I enjoyed the VTEC Mini one, but that's kind of because I was already interested in the idea of a VTEC Mini anyway. I actually already knew Mark at that point, Mark Bremer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard about like what they were doing, and I tuned in and I binged that entire series. But I didn't really start caring that much about what they were doing until they did just some Honda Civic stuff like this past year. Just some really clean Civic builds. And then, like, they've been doing these meme cars of like the sex spec cars from like back in like the 2010s or whatever.
Yep.
Or like the 2000s. Those have been entertaining to look at because it's just like a bunch of wild shit was happening at that time, and they're like revisiting and like they get to feel old, which is kind of fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, I have been tuning into more of their stuff recently. Their 180SX build I didn't really watch at all. I've been tuning into the Lavorg thing because like I've always liked the Lavorg. The Lavorg has always seemed like a modern interpretation of my 4th gen Outback XT.
Gotcha. And I just pulled up a picture because I actually have not even seen one. Oh, okay. Gotcha. I've seen some pictures. I just didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah. But is that not like a modern interpretation of my old Outback?
Yeah, I think very similar because like the modern...
It's actually a wagon, not an SUV.
Yes, exactly. Interesting. Huh.
So that with an STI, EJ257 with the 6-speed.
Yeah.
Like, pretty good.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I even loved a few years ago, actually it's been quite a while because these guys have been on, not on YouTube for a minute. Them and Roadkill had a special together that was pretty good actually.
Well, because they're making actual money at Motor Trend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Not YouTube money.
Right.
Yeah. And that's actually a funny one. Not to tangent too much off of this, but I remember when that a decision got announced that like at the end of the year or whatever, they were taking all the stuff down.
When was that? Like 2015, 16? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it was 17. It was a few years ago, though.
I remember when it got announced, but they're like, we're going to keep everything on to the end of the year, and then at the end of the year, everything's going to transition over to Motor Trend on demand.
Yeah.
And I remember it's one of those situations where you have like people all lit up on fire. Oh my God, you're going to kill yourself. Oh my, all that kind of stuff. But like, I've never actually subscribed to Motor Trend on demand, but from what I've seen, most of those shows still exist. I think there's only been a couple that have actually gone the way of the dodo, but they all seem to be, for the most part, thriving pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the bigger inspos for me, not just getting into, but maintaining this desire to create this kind of car content that we do, was the early Carlos Lagos like pair up with him and Johnny Lieberman at Motor Trend, because it was them doing the head-to-head and the ignition. Either one of them would have been doing ignition at one time.
Yeah.
And then Camisa came in and replaced Carlos. And I mean, that also like kind of went up in flames a few years ago as well. And yeah, Camisa left and ended up starting up at Easy doing car content, and then now at Haggerty just absolutely crushing it.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying a lot, and I hate that about myself.
But
it's after the work day. I'm forgiving myself.
It's definitely a Wednesday evening.
Oh my God, it's a fucking Wednesday.
But anyways, like things like that, I'm surprised more things like that haven't happened. Go ahead.
What I was gonna say, I was listening to this interview that Farah was doing with some German podcast guy. They kind of ended up talking about like Tesla stuff and self-driving and EVs and
naturally
how self-driving isn't real. But Matt was getting into his beginnings and talking about how he first started, not at very first, but he was talking about his time at Drive, which it turned into The Drive, which is now the auto news site, but it was the Drive Network. So there was like his show, Tuned. Mike Musto had Big Muscle. There were other shows that Mike Spinelli was doing, and like with other guys that I grew up watching. And in 2014, they not just proposed, but started to go in the direction of the subscription model.
Yes.
Which, like, how many fucking subscriptions can you list now that people commonly, pretty popularly, like, subscribe to? There's, Netflix, Disney Plus, Peacock,
Spotify.
Well, that's not video, but
but
like with television, like how many subscriptions do people have?
A lot.
When Drive announced that they were going to a subscription 8 years ago, there were fucking pitchforks. People were saying, how fucking dare you start charging money for something that you've been giving to us for free for so many years? And it just completely backfired on them. And it's just really interesting to see how that has flipped on its head, with Motor Trend doing well, with all of these subscription models coming from major, I don't even want to say content creators, because it's not who they are. They are corporations. But, companies like Peacock, HBO Plus, or whatever it's called, Amazon, Netflix, like all these other things, like, oh, yeah, they were kind of ahead of their time, weren't they?
They're content conglomerations. Cause like they make some content, but a good majority of it is content from other people that they bring in under their umbrella.
They aren't
licenses.
Solely content creator, like Apple TV, like that. Yeah, like no, they don't create the content themselves. They fund the content.
Yeah,
but they are not behind the cameras making the shit. Whereas like you or I or Todd and Paul or Matt and Zach or whatever,
And I do know that a lot of it comes down to both time and place and to like approach. And I wasn't paying attention to the Drive at the time, so I can't comment on any of those, but I can comment on the fact that was a little early.
It was very early.
Because that was Netflix 8 years ago, roughly. Netflix had been a subscription model for a couple years at that point.
House of Cards was the first real piece of content that was really making money for Netflix at that point.
And
because that came out in like 2012, 2013.
Yeah, I think.
And I remember like when House of Cards came out, I was like, oh, Netflix ain't playing. They ain't fucking around anymore.
Yeah. And they were them, and I think Hulu had just started up at that point as well. But they were really the only two. I mean, this is pre-YouTube Premium. This is pre so many things that are so common now.
When did YouTube Premium come out?
That was, I think...
16?
I think 16, 17, I think, something like that. But this was pre a lot of things. And so I can imagine, depending on how dedicated their fan base is versus how, like, and how much content they create, when you're trying to hide that behind a paywall, you kind of have to be careful, because you have to make sure that, like, the customer feels like they're getting enough. Motor Trend had the glorious... position of having so many different things that they made.
Well, the Drive had like 7 or so shows. They had a few shows, but maybe not as much as Motor Trend, I guess.
Well, and Motor Trend, I think what happened is in the initial Motor Trend On Demand launch, all of the Top Gear went behind that as well.
That's what did it. That Top Gear was their House of Cards.
It was, because they were able to license all that, because at that point, I mean, when Motor Trend On Demand happened was just after Top Gear, as far as the OG spec Top Gear.
Well, the Clarkson area.
The Clarkson era, you know, that all was gone because they had their breakup, they'd had their big fight, and the Grand Tour was about a year out at that point. So they were able to hide that all behind a paywall. It'd be like, hey, you pay us, I think at that time it was $10 a month, and then you get access to this automotive holy grail of stuff.
Yeah, and I want to say... was the Drive like maybe $14 a month? It might have been a little expensive too. I think it was over 10, which is a lot.
It is. And that's where you do have this weird dichotomy that we as humans have when we comprehend money and value, where a couple dollars isn't a lot to almost anybody. But a couple dollars when it comes to a marketing standpoint can be the difference between somebody saying yes and no. That's why
it could be the difference of billions of dollars for a company like Netflix.
And I'm mainly talking about from a consumer basis, from like a consumer saying, oh yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Like $9.99 versus $10. Yeah. It's practically the same.
Yeah.
But the person will choose a $9.99 product but may not choose a $10 product.
Well, yeah, and for, say, like the amount of subscribers that Netflix has, I don't know how many they have, but like if they go from $8 a month to $9.99 a month, that is billions.
Yeah,
it's probably realistically touching $1 billion.
Yeah, and I wish. So there's one model I'm going to bring up here, and we've talked about this a couple times before. I don't know about on the podcast. One of the content creators I follow called Linus Tech Tips, he created his own type of platform on the side where they're trying to engineer this called Floatplane. I kind of hope more things start to go to this model because
there's someone else that I follow actually that's on Floatplane, and I can't remember who it is. I think they're an automotive person.
They've like slowly grown. They have other stuff now, which is kind of cool to see. Because cool,
you wanted to get us on there
as an idea, so I emailed them, and they're like, "Hey, we're curating people because we're small and we're trying to like grow one."
They need to be getting heavy hitters, not people like us that have almost 3,000 subscribers on YouTube.
So what's cool about it is the fact that there's kind of two layers to it. You end up paying a fairly small amount just to be a part of Floatplane, but then you actually, I totally messed that up, and I'm logging into it right now so I can even verify this. Yeah, so basically how it works, it's almost like the glorious combination of YouTube as a video sharing service and Patreon at the same time, because how you get access to the person's content is you're able to subscribe to that individual's content on a monthly basis, and most of the time it's pretty cheap. It's like $2 a month.
Yeah.
Similar to like what Patreon can be. And then you get different things based on how it's tiered, and then you can...
Yeah, I mean, I also look at Patreon, sorry to cut you off there, but like jumping in, like how many creators on YouTube either have a Patreon or have a support or subscribe thing to their channel where you are, I think they call it memberships, where like you can become a member.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. That's, number one, of course, is they need to make more money, because just as we even know, as small as we are, like the amount that YouTube
if we did that, we'd have maybe 3 people that would do it. Exactly. One of them is my mom.
Right?
The other one's your mom.
Yeah, exactly. We're not big enough to do that yet, but, we can see that, like, the YouTube itself money is just not much.
Yeah.
You have to be real pumping to actually get AdSense to be worth a damn.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of content creators already on YouTube use things like Patreon to fund for various reasons. They can keep their stuff a little more independent from other sources. They can eliminate ads. They can offer content early. Lots of different things. And so that Floatplane basically does that, but all in one. So you're not having to go multiple different directions. And the part of the reason they developed Floatplane is they realized that YouTube, although it supports 4K, quote unquote, and other stuff, almost always
they compress the ever-living fuck out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's compressed. They claim to support HDR, but in their testing, they found out they really don't. It's not true HDR.
Right.
So they wanted to create a platform that could actually support all those at the same time as directly supporting creators. And I kind of like that model a little better, where you could individually support at a very low dollar amount individual creators to get direct access to their content. And I believe their revenue split is very generous. It's over 50-50. Like, the content creator gets...
As well as should be.
The majority, yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish that more things would go to that.
It would be nice if it was more like a Coinstar thing, where like Coinstar takes 10% and you get 90%.
Yeah. And
hopefully it gets to that point. But.
Hopefully it does, but I would like more of like the content that we consume from like smaller individual creators to be a little more like that, because those smaller creators are the ones that's much difficult, like us, to get really going in the YouTube space, because the YouTube space is so huge
and overly saturated in every single niche.
And he's even said, Linus that is, has even said multiple times, like, I never want to say that I'm competing with YouTube, because that would be audacious and ridiculous. Like, the sucky thing is nobody can compete with YouTube at this very moment, because YouTube is by absolute miles the biggest video sharing platform.
TikTok's coming up, though. Mm-hmm. The unfortunate thing about TikTok's, like, how do you monetize that exactly?
I looked that up at one point. There are ways, but
there are.
It's funky, to say the least. It's not being the nature of TikTok is effectively ADHD YouTube, you know?
Yeah.
It's not something you can bake a 30-second ad into a 20-minute video.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You can't do that. I know that there are ways that you can get direct monetization from TikTok similar to YouTube AdSense.
Yeah.
But it's...
You also have to be posting on there fucking constantly.
Yeah. It seems to, from what I researched, that like the way that somebody consumes TikTok is the way they want you to post it. So it's almost like you need to be posting every other hour at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that seems like not a great idea for the social media general consensus.
For mental health in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've always struggled to I personally, and I'm generally the antithesis with these things, I've struggled to consume content like that because I want at least some meaning out of it, and quite often you only have very few creators that can make meaningful content out of like 30-second bits.
Yeah.
Because most of it's just funny shit, which is great. Everybody needs a little release, but
sure.
But at the same time, you can kind of have both where it'll be funny and like, oh, I learned something. At the same time, that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
But most of the time, TikTok is more just slapstick.
At best. Yeah, there's a lot of cringe and there's a lot of what in the actual fuck was that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the media platforms that we currently have are quite interestingly diversified. And
TikTok and YouTube are they're in the same camp where that shouldn't necessarily be the thing that monetizes you or the thing that pays your rent, but that's the thing that gets eyes on you. And you can direct your audience to somewhere else. So, like, yeah, if you and I get to like 20K on YouTube, then we can like make a Patreon, or something, and have people go to there and actually support us. You know, maybe we do like an extra podcast a month or an extra podcast a week or something for like those, for like depending on what tier you are, exclusive members or whatever. Maybe send out monthly merch items or, you know, etc.
Bunch of different options that you can have. I mean, a lot of people effectively at this point use YouTube for a business front. Yes Theory does that, and they're fantastic about it. They effectively at this point are a clothing brand that does cool lifestyle videos. Yeah. They have
so the Hoonigans are.
Same with the Hoonigans.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people have done this extraordinarily smartly in taking what fame that they could get. Smartly, yes. That's the way yes.
Someone went to college.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't. That's the best part.
Neither one. Yeah, no.
But they took the fame that they were able to gather and then used general media and marketing to just fuel that fire. Mm-hmm. And that's the difficult thing, is trying to do that without seeming like a sellout.
Right.
That's the hard balance. Because anybody can go, I mean, hell, even we're making merch like this. Anybody can go out and make merch. It's not really that difficult.
It's not.
But doing that and making sure the items are quality at the same time that making sure you don't just make everybody feel like, oh, yeah,
they're trying to sling their merch,
is quite the teeter-totter to balance on.
Right. Or if you are trying to sling merch, you have to make sure you're slinging it to the people that are like so dull and like, not to crap on anyone in particular, but 8-year-olds.
Yeah,
you know, that's how you make your money, is you sell shit to 8-year-olds who will then go to their mommy and daddy who are trying to capture their child's attention by any means possible, and they'll just buy them the shit.
Yep.
But if you can do that to, you know, 1 million people or 10 million people, then you're swimming in the good stuff.
That's how a lot of the like Minecraft YouTubers are big, because most of them make content for effectively 8 to 12 years.
Or like the Paul brothers, or fucking, I don't know, PewDiePie, or like whatever.
All those guys, you know, they at some point realize that a vast majority of their audience is young.
Yeah.
And
or if you're a woman, thirsty men.
Thick talk, as it were.
Sure.
I don't know if no, that's actually
I'm sure it is.
A sadly but legit category.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it works. Sex sells. I mean, granted, the movie industry has known this for 100 plus years.
And advertising in general industry. I mean, like the way that people sold cars back in the 70s, 50 years ago.
Put a pinup girl on them.
Yeah, or, you know, like, oh, yeah, throw your bitch in the side seat, let's go for a ride, you know.
And they knew exactly what would happen with all the horny men flocking.
Oh, yeah. And that's another podcast too.
Exactly. Oh God.
How long have we been going for?
We're about 50.
Oh, cool. Well, we have some stuff to do.
Yeah.
So speaking of merch,
we're gonna chill ourselves.
yeah, you know what? I will chill our stuff because
we should.
We really ought to.
Especially when we're proud of it.
I'm proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we dropped a new hoodie. We did a little photo shoot of it over the weekend. I just dropped. Well, I guess by the time that you're listening to this is about a week old now. But yeah, we have a new hoodie. We still have like a bunch of shirts left and other hats and like mad stickers. So if you are, if you're in need of a hoodie or just want to support us, we have a new hoodie and we have t-shirts that are of incredibly high quality, like surprisingly high quality.
Very, very comfortable.
And some sick hats. And yeah, go to www.exhibitionofspeed.com and you can find yourself some merch, some of those merch items. Everything except for the hoodies ships pretty quickly, and everything's $5 shipping. However, the hoodies, because of the way that we're doing this and we're not sitting on a bunch of bulk items, there's just going to be like a couple week delay just because you got to put your order in and then we have to process it and send it to our person, but we do them in batches. So if you do that, thank you, but expect to wait maybe a couple of weeks. So
yeah.
Oh, look at that. Justin McIntyre added 3 new photos. Oh, wow. Cool. Well, oh, yeah. Speaking about shilling merch, Justin just shared some.
I shilled merch live on air, sort of.
Live to your Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, cool. Well, the reason why we're not recording this on a Sunday is because my dad's birthday was at the time of this recording yesterday, but we're doing birthday stuff this upcoming Sunday when Cars and Coffee and stuff is happening. So
okay.
I won't be available to podcast or do any editing for us on that day. So if you're listening to this, maybe wish my dad a happy birthday if there's a way for you to. I don't know how.
Yeah.
Maybe just say it out loud in your car or something.
Throw the vibes.
Yeah, good vibes. Turned 71.
Wow.
Yeah, time is going by, and I kind of feel like a piece of shit son sometimes because there's not to say that there's not much time left, but
you never know how much.
That's true. My dad took care of himself, or has taken care of himself, still does, and comes from really great genes. His grandmother lived to be 100, and his dad lived to be, 92.
Okay.
And for over 60 years of his life, just constantly chain smoking.
Oh, yeah.
So, pretty good genes. So, we probably have a good amount of time left, but still, wish my dad a happy birthday. And until next time, I've been Gavin.
And I've been Justin.
And this has been the Exhibition of Speed podcast. Goodbye.